Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Gregory. Today I put together an advanced guide for drop shotting in Call of Duty Mobile. As you guys know, in the recent update, they did come out with a specific button dedicated to drop shotting, and I decided it's a good time for a drop shot tutorial. This video is going to cover everything drop shot related, such as how many fingers you should use, your HUDs, how to drop shot, when not to drop shot, when to drop shot, common mistakes that people make, tactics, strategies, and how you can integrate drop shotting into, peaks and stuff like that. So just everything drop shot related, plus how to do it on a professional level. We're gonna get into that in today's video. All right, so before we get into the meat of the video where we talk about how to drop shot, when to drop shot techniques, tactics, and strategies, let's just first talk about the HUD, how many fingers you need, and like where you should put your buttons and stuff like that. This is just gonna be very quick, so let's go ahead and get into it. So first thing I'd like to note is that there are three, actually more like four, I guess, important buttons when you're drop shotting. The first one is obviously the drop button. If you guys don't know how to enable the drop button, let me go ahead and show you. So go to basic, and then where it says hide prone button, hold crouch to prone, turn that off. That'll basically make it so you have a separate button for dropping, and it kind of looks, well, it does look exactly like this one right here that's highlighted. So you have that button, you have your shoot button, you have your scope button, and technically this doesn't really count as a button, but you have your, where you swipe the screen to aim. So yeah, those are the main four aspects of drop shotting. You got those four buttons, and of course you have the strategy and the muscle memory, you'll be good to go. But as far as pressing the buttons, here's what you guys need to know. So first off, do I need to play with a bunch of fingers to drop shot? No, you don't. Is it going to be harder for you guys to drop shot with 2 to 3 fingers? Yes, it will be, but it's not impossible. We'll talk later in the video about how you guys can do drop shotting with 2 and 3 fingers, and we'll of course talk about how you can do it a much faster method with 4 or 5 or 6 and stuff like that. But basically, the moral of the story here is you need to have these 4, I guess I'm counting the swiping the screen as a button, but you need to have these 4 buttons available to you, and it's very, very beneficial if you can dedicate a finger to a button. Of course, if you're only playing with like 2 or 3 fingers, it's really hard to dedicate a separate finger to a button. But basically, however you want to make your HUD, just try to make your drop button and your scope button the most accessible. So make those very easy to press. Your shoot button, you probably already have it in a pretty good spot, so I'm not too worried about that, and along with your aiming button. But if you can get your scope and your crouch, I shouldn't say crouch, I should say prone button because it's a separate button now, make those buttons the most accessible. And if you already are playing with 6 fingers or something like I am, then you guys can see my middle finger on my left hand is dedicated to pressing the prone button, and my thumb on the right hand is pretty much dedicated to pressing either the scope button, the crouch button, or the reload button. So I pretty much have a dedicated finger for these buttons. That's ultimately what you guys want for drop shotting. If you can't get a finger that's dedicated to pressing one of those buttons, you just gotta be really quick at moving your finger over, if you're using 2 or 3 fingers to press those buttons. So yeah, that's what I would recommend as far as HUDs. Just make sure you have those buttons in a good spot to the point where your fingers can easily access them, because those are really crucial when drop shotting. Alright, so now let's go ahead and talk about sequencing and when you actually need to press these buttons, because there is an order depending on the type of drop shotting, the type of technique, whether you're drop shotting while you're already ADS'd or you're drop shotting while you're hip fired and then you want to ADS in during the drop shot. Basically, there's a sequence that you want to press these buttons. So on my screen right now, I have all the buttons pretty much low opacity except the 3 that we're going to be using for drop shotting. So here's the sequence that you guys are going to want to do. So first off, it really does depend on the type of drop shotting. So first, we're just going to do hip fire. So if you're already like this, you're hip firing and you want to scope in and drop shot somebody. This is the easiest way to do it. Now, before we get into that, let me just talk about a mistake in a way that a lot of players do it, which is the least effective, and it just overall takes away from your accuracy, and you don't want to do it this way. So what I see a lot of players do is, they're in a fight or whatever, and they ADS in, right? So they ADS, and then they drop. Don't do that. And I see some players say, like, they do it, but they're like, it's fine because I can just ADS again after. What it ends up looking like is they're fine, like they're drop shotting, they ADS, but then they re-ADS. There's a brief moment where they are hip firing. You don't want that. If you're hip firing and you properly want to drop shot somebody the fastest way possible, you're gonna have to press all 3 buttons at the same time. Now, if you don't have that many fingers to the point where you can't do this, well, first off, let me just talk about this way. This is the optimal way to do it if you want to do it as fast as humanly possible in this game. You have to press the shoot button the prone button and the scope button all at the exact same time, you know, simultaneously aiming and shooting. So it's gonna look something like this. So Brandon, if you could strafe side to side for me, just so I get a little bit of aiming action in here. So that's the ultimate best way to do it. You press all 3 of these buttons at the same time. If you don't have enough fingers to press all those buttons at the same time, here's the sequence that you guys want to do it. So obviously you don't want to scope in first, because you guys saw what happens when you do that. You don't want to be hip firing mid drop shot. That's not the way to do it. We talked about why. So here's what you guys want to do. So obviously scoping first is not the way. If you guys can prone and shoot, like press those 2 buttons at the same time, do that and then press the scope button. So watch, I'm gonna press both of these at the same time like this and then scope in. That's a faster way to do it, but if you still don't have enough fingers to do all of that at the same time, then you guys can do this, where you drop, then you shoot, then you ADS. So it looks like this. That's another way to do it. Of course, it's slightly slower than the last method. So drop, shoot, ADS. You can do kind of all 3 buttons. And this is like if you're really low on fingers, like you're using like, I don't know, 2 or 3. But yeah, if you guys are using multiple fingers, such as, you know, 4 or 5 or maybe even 6, then, you know, you could press all 3 at the same time. More power to you, because that's going to help you guys be as quick as possible. So it's going to look, you know, just like this. That's the ultimate goal. So if you want to switch up, you know, your finger placement, I would do it. If you want faster drop shotting, go for it. So anyways, now that we talked about proper technique for drop shotting when you're already in hip fire, let's talk about what you guys want to do if you're already ADS'd and you're in a gunfight with somebody and you want to drop shot successfully, like the fastest way possible. This is how you guys are going to want to do it. It's a little bit harder. The sequence is a little bit more to, you know, to memorize, but it's not hard. Okay, so here's what we're going to want to do. Basically, this is the idea. You're ADS'd. You're going to want to drop. Yeah, I saw that you hit me from there. You're going to want to, if you're already ADS'd, you're going to want to drop, and then you're going to want to re-ADS as fast as possible while you're in the dropping motion. So it's going to look something like this. So you're already ADS'd. It's going to look like that. You don't want to wait, because if you wait, then you're basically just hip firing for a long period of time, and you don't want to be doing that. So yeah, you're ADS'd. You're fighting with somebody, maybe you're strafing side to side, you drop down, re-ADS instantly. That's the best possible way for you guys to do it. So basically, that's the technique for drop shotting. It's all about the buttons, it's all about the order which you press them, and overall, you could just be a master at drop shotting. Now, you guys know the proper technique of drop shotting, you know what buttons you want, you know where you want to put them and stuff like that. Now let's talk about when and when not to drop shot. So let's go ahead and get into that. Okay, so when you guys are drop shotting, you want to make sure you guys are doing it in the right spots. And what I mean by that is you don't want to be doing it next to a solid object or a wall or anything like that, because it's basically going to screw up your aim and you're not going to be able to look to a certain side. So basically, here's an example. If I just drop shotted right next to, let me get a little bit closer. If I just drop shotted right next to this, as you guys can see, I cannot swipe to the right anymore. I'm locked in place. So like, let's say I'm in a gunfight with Brandon. Brandon, where did you go now? Keep disappearing. Oh, there you are. There you are. So if I'm trying to, are you stuck? Oh no, you're just prone. Okay, so if you could stay, actually wait, stay right here. You're in a perfect spot. I'm gonna drop shot right next to this bush, and I'll show you guys what I mean. So if I'm drop shotting, look, I cannot hit Brandon. Well, I'm out of ammo now. See, look, he can hit me. Well, now I can hit him because he moved. But you guys get the idea. We're drop shotting. We're gonna do this with the pistol. I can't hit him. You don't want to do that. If you're next to a solid object of any kind, don't drop shot. You're going to screw yourself up, especially if there's somebody like, you know, really close to you. Sometimes you won't even be able to drop shot because you'll get prone lock with my back to the object. It's going to say prone lock is active. So you're going to be spending your time trying to drop shot, and you're just sitting there like an idiot standing up, and you're expecting that you're going to be dropping to the floor. And, you know, instead you could be like strafing. That's a much better way to not be hit instead of just standing still. You know what I mean? So just make sure when you guys are drop shotting, you're not next to a solid object and your back is not to the object, because then your prone lock's going to be active. So now that you guys know how to drop shot and when to drop shot, let's talk about putting drop shot to work and actually getting kills with it. So here's a technique that I like to use. I made this name up. I just call it the pop and drop. Basically what it is you turn a corner while proned, quickly pop up, start shooting, and then drop shot while you're shooting and get the kill. So this is what it looks like. Right after this, I'm going to show you guys what it looks like from like the perspective of someone else doing it to you. Before we get into the alternate perspective, let me show you guys what it actually looks like and how you guys can utilize it. So you're going to turn a corner, drop, pop up, and then drop again as you're shooting. Let's go ahead and do it one more time. I know I did it kind of fast. Let me go ahead and get my phone real quick. I'm going to go ahead and do it again here. So we're going to go ahead and drop, pop up, drop down again. And yeah, so that's what it is. It's called the pop and drop technique that I made up. Now let's see what it looks like when you're actually getting killed by somebody using the pop and drop technique. It's really smooth. Let's check it out.
Close, fight harder.
Okay, so here's another technique. I don't really have a name for this one. I don't even know if it's a thing, if people actually use it, but I've used it before and it's super good. So it's basically where you know where somebody is and you prone and then you pre-fire them as you're standing up. So it's like a reverse drop shot kind of. So this is what it actually looks like. So like if I see an enemy there, right, and I know he's there, I'm gonna go ahead and drop, start firing, and then as I'm popping up, I'm shooting at him. So it's kind of like you're reversing almost, like you're reversing the drop shot motion. So you're like popping up. And also, if you guys want to throw a little bit of flair into this, I'm not gonna use my alt account to demonstrate, but basically instead of just popping up, you can also drop down again and pop up again, so it looks more like this. You're shooting and then you keep popping up and popping down if you want to add a little bit of extra flair to the move. But that's basically what it is. The reason it's effective is because when you're dropped down, you still know where they are, but they don't know where you are. You could be like a foot to the right, a foot to the left. You're like dropped underneath the object, so they don't exactly know where you are, so they could be pre-aiming like just slightly to the right of you or slightly to the left of you. So it's actually pretty effective. Now, if you guys want to make that method super effective, you guys can use an object that you can shoot under and above. So like, for example, this truck right here on Nuketown, you're able to shoot under it and you're able to shoot above it. So here's a quick example of a kill utilizing the method. Alright, and the final drop shot method or tactic that I want to show you guys is the most common one, and it's also just very effective overall because it's so easy to do and you can't really mess it up. So this is basically like a jump and drop. So it's kind of like the pop and drop, except instead of starting prone, you're starting in the air. So yeah, I'm not going to shoot my alt here. I'm just going to kind of show you guys what it looks like. So basically you turn a corner, jump, and then you drop down and shoot. That's really it. So here's what it looks like in fast motion. So we're coming in here, we're turning a corner, jump, drop, shoot. Pretty simple. The more you practice it, the faster you can, drop, because the ultimate goal is to not do this. You don't want to be the guy who does this. You don't want to be that slow. You want to be pretty quick. So if I were you guys, I would spam the prone button as soon as you're in the air. So the second you hit the ground, you prone. You know what I mean? You don't want to be sitting there just like, oh. You know what I mean? So yeah, practice it a little bit, but it's pretty easy to learn, and it's overall pretty effective. Just jump a corner, prone, shoot. Pretty simple. If you guys did enjoy the video and you did learn something, make sure you guys go ahead and leave a like. I spent the entire morning editing this instead of doing my essay for homework, which I probably should do right now. But yeah, and also, of course, subscribe to the channel for some more Call of Duty mobile content. And yeah, so that's it, guys. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out. We'll be right back.